Hello, I'm Michael Mariot, Head Rosarian at David Austin Roses, talking to you about rose fragrances for the Shropshire Virtual Flower Show. Roses are amazing for fragrances. There's no other plant that has such a wide range of completely different fragrance types as the rose. It's not quite right actually. The tropical epiphytic orchids also, they have an even bigger range of roses, of fragrances, but of course they're a bit trickier to grow than roses. Roses, if you choose the right variety, give them a few basic things, they're the easiest things to grow and really the most garden worthy of all plants. So fragrance, there's 5 basic sorts of fragrances you find in roses. There's the old rose fragrance, the fruity fragrance, the tea, the myrrh and the musky fragrance. They all have their own different characteristics, and some varieties are pure fruit or old rose or whatever, and some are quite mixed. So let's start off with the old rose fragrance, and start off here with one of my very favourite varieties, which I guess quite a lot of you will recognise. It's Gertrude Jekyll, and this is just the most delicious fragrance. I mean, it's hard to describe how wonderful it is. It's purely old rose, quite a soft old rose fragrance. And when that starts flowering in summer, I always think, well, summer has finally arrived. I mean, it's a beautiful flower as well, wonderful shade of pure pink, can grow in the shrub or climate, and then this gorgeous fragrance that goes with it. The old rose fragrance, of course, is still found in the true old roses, things like the Gallicas, the Damasks and the Albas, in varieties like Tuscany Superb, Isfahan, Celsiana and things like that. They only flower once, whereas most of these varieties here have the advantage of repeat flowering, and most of them are the David Austin English roses. This one isn't actually, this one is a rugosa rose. You can see it from the leaf, a very rough leaf. It's a variety called Hansa, and this is more pure old rose fragrance. I mean, if you imagine, if you ever smelt rose oil attar roses, then it's a bit more like that. Absolutely beautiful. A very, very tough rose and just no disease at all, and repeats them. Very good crop of pips in the autumn. Then we come on to the fruity fragrances, and just as you, each of the fruits that you might buy from your local greengrocer has a different fragrance, you know, whether it's one of the citruses or pear or damsons, raspberries, strawberries, all that sort of thing, then so you find similar fragrances in the rose world. This is a variety called Desdemona, lovely white rose, quite a lot of lemon in it. I took a couple of plants of this down to my sister last year in the car, and the fragrance coming from the back of the car was absolutely superb. Very good variety, not such big flowers, but extremely free flowering. Another wonderful one for fruit is Lady Emma Hamilton, which is this one here. Very distinct, very easy to recognise, lovely rich orangey apricot flowers, very dark leaves, and the fragrance is it's very tropical. It's like guavas and lychees quite often, and whenever I encourage people to smell this in the garden, they always come up with a smile on their face, because it is so instantly recognisable as just a lovely fruity fragrance. And then we've got 2 varieties here which are just sort of a medley of fruits, if you like. So here we've got Eustacia Vi, and actually that young flower there, 2 young flowers, are smelling very lemony at the moment, whereas the older ones very much less so. And that's always something to do with a little trick when you're smelling roses, is smell different flowers. Don't just smell one flower and say, oh yes, that smells nice, or it doesn't smell at all. Smell several different flowers and you'll be surprised how variable they are from one variety to the next. And of course, smelling roses is very good for you as well. And this is Gabriel Oak, bit of old rose in there as well, with delicious fragrance, lovely strong pink colour. Then we come on to the tea fragrances, and Royal Dahl has the classic tea fragrance. Where does the name come from, tea? Well, it actually smells like a freshly opened packet of tiny tea leaves. No good smelling your Yorkshire tea bags or anything like that. It's got to be proper kind of tea leaves, and I'm a bit of a tea fanatic myself, so I love the tea fragrance. Very nice. Graham Thomas, which you probably know as well, the rose Graham Thomas has a very strong and delicious tea fragrance. This variety, one of my very favourite varieties, we've got lots of these plants at home. Lady Shallot, more of a floral tea fragrance, lovely soft fragrance, quite variable in strength. Early morning you go past it and just absolutely gorgeous. And in this variety, Princess Alexandra of Kent, it's a classic example of the fragrance changing according to the age of the flower. So when the flower is young, it'll smell quite tea, but as the flower ages, then it becomes more citrus and actually finally blackcurrant as the flowers petals are ready to drop. Yes, lovely, lovely variety, lovely fragrance. Then we come to the myrrh fragrance, which is quite divisive. Some people will immediately turn up their noses at the myrrh fragrance. I can never understand why I love the myrrh fragrance. I mean, I love all the fragrances. The name myrrh comes from, not from the biblical myrrh, but from the Latin name for sweet cicely, Myrrhis odorata. And if you smelt sweet cicely, it's quite an aniseed type fragrance, and that's what it smells like to a certain extent. Willisdale Hall, a very good example of that. And this is Boscobel, which has got quite a lot of other bits and pieces in it. That flower there actually smells particularly delicious. So it's got extra bits of elderflower and pear and almond and all sorts of other bits and pieces. So always worth smelling several times to see what you can get out of it. When you're smelling of a rose, don't just sort of give it a quick sniff and be embarrassed about proclaiming about it. Make sure you smell it really quite several times and just relax about it. It doesn't matter if you can't identify, just enjoy it for what it is. Then when you come to the final group, the musky fragrance. This is a rambler called Francis E. Lester, classic rambler. Small flowers, not very many petals often, but lots and lots of stamens. That's where the fragrance comes from. It's not from the petals of the flower, but from the stamens in the middle. And when you smell it up close, it's quite strongly clove-like, like spiced cloves. But when you smell it at a distance, it's much more delicious, musky fragrance. Excuse me, too much smelling of roses. Lovely rose, that has very good hips in the autumn. And you also find the musky fragrance in the species. And here we've got Spinosissima, the Scots rose. That shouldn't be flowering now, that should be flowering in early May, but I just happened to find this very late flower. Lovely, soft, almost lily of the valley type fragrance, and also extremely thorny. Don't be put off with it. It's a lovely group of roses, well worth growing, experimenting. And another one here, another species, very rare one. The flower started to shrivel now, called Rosa palustris. Delicate but lovely fragrance. And then the very last fragrance, flower rose I want to look at now is this one called Buttercup. And whenever I'm asked what's my favourite rose for fragrance, I always say Buttercup. And all the other roses, they can say, oh yes, it smells like tea or myrrh or all rose or whatever. Whereas Buttercup, I can't actually describe it. It's just a very, very delicious fragrance. Some people said freesias, well, yeah, possibly. It's a lovely rose, lovely semi-double flowers, lovely rich yellow, but just the most gorgeous fragrance. So do go out and smell as many roses as you can. It is the most wonderful thing to do. Very good for your well-being, which we all need at the moment. And of course, it goes with wonderful plants as well. The rose is just the most wonderful garden plant you can get. Thank you.